Good morning and happy whatever day it is today. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday. I'm pretty sure.
I think
I don't know
so.
half the time. I think it is. How are you doing on this fine day?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I got a little sick girl at home, but besides that, I am
Oh,
doing fantastic. That crud is going around, but it is
yeah,
what
it
it
is.
is. It is what it
Mm.
is. We're talking about some pretty cool stuff today. I think
Yeah.
some not just cool. Sorry, I don't think that's the right word. Um I think it's
Too
just so
interesting.
important. It's
It is.
very like it is so important to understand kind of what's going on, so we can prepare our sellers and buyers, right? I mean, that's what it's going to come down to with this. So I'll let you kind of take it away. I'll be here to chime in if you need me or anything like that. But yeah, I'm interested to see kind of what you're going to be going over today because I think it's just so important when it comes to fraud and specifically on the vacant land side. It was funny. I sent the email out I send out the everybody jump on and let's see. I got a message from Jim Graff saying got another one of those fraud deals yesterday.
It is
So it's
happening.
happening a lot.
Yes. And
A
that's
lot.
the importance of the call is it's not just, welcome to title, let's go over everything you guys know. This stuff is happening and a lot of times it's right under your nose and nobody has any idea.
That's right.
So we're
That's
going
right.
to go over it with you guys and we're going to show you what Florida Agency Network and Paramount Title does to protect you and your clients. Vacant land isn't just dirt. Okay. It's a fraudster's playground if we're not vigilant. Okay. So it's super valuable and super important. Um, so I wanted to go over first when we get a contract, and I want to tell you kind of like how our process is and how we handle this on a title standpoint. Obviously, every title company is different, so this is going to be tailored to Paramount Titles. But when we get a vacant land contract, if you've ever gotten with us on one, the first thing we're going to ask you for are two forms of seller's identification. We are not opening your file. We're not doing a title search. We're not requesting lien searches. We're not doing anything on that file until we have two forms of valid ID, which Bagans is so amazing. And now they're also requiring this for their dot loop and for their compliance because it's happening and it's getting scary. Um, so first let's talk about like why vacant land. Why do these fraudsters target vacant land? Five key points on it. One, there's nobody physically there. Right? So nobody's in on the land, nobody's got a tent out, making sure nobody takes it. Two is 90% of the time, the people who own that vacant land are not in the state of Florida. They are somewhere else in the United States or out of the country. And a lot of times vacant land is surrounded by vacant land. So you don't have neighbors looking at that property constantly. Those nosy neighbors, they could come in handy when it comes to things like this. Three, less emotional attachment. When you have a house, there's tons of emotional attachment that these sellers have to that. They don't have that with vacant land. A lot of times they buy it for, most of the time it's bought for a purpose to either build or use it for something. And a lot of times they just don't do it because permits happen or life happens and they never get to it. So there's less emotional attachment to it. The fourth one is it's usually a quick turnaround time and it's all cash. So there's no lender, no underwriting, no credit reports done. It's just a buyer coming in saying, I want to buy cash and I want to buy this land. Which these fraud sellers are going, yeah, I love that. Um, Number five is the property public records. They make the targeting easy. These fraudsters do their investigation and we have found that out. They target these vacant lands and then they find out things about the real sellers to be able to close on them. That's why we ask specific questions and we'll go over certain things that we do where they're not ready for it. And it catches them off guard and they usually go MIA once they figure out, okay, they're on to me, they're gone. And what sucks about it is, and I'll go over those too, there's a couple that we've caught and we do contact the real owners, and I'll show you how we do that. But all we can do is tell them to contact, if it's in Hillsborough County, the non-emergency line, and they give them an investigator because at that point the fraud hasn't taken place because the deal hasn't closed. So it's really tricky when it comes to actually doing something about it. We have had one where it wasn't just the land that they stole, they actually did steal their identity and they had a credit card open under the seller's name. So at that point, something was able to get done further than normal, which sucks on the seller side, but it actually is awesome that they were able to do something about it for once. All right, so if we get the seller, so I'm going to show you, I have a couple of IDs that I have on my end. Um, that I'm going to show you guys. And these are real seller IDs that we have gotten. So this one here, and let me zoom this in. This is Mr. Huntley McDaniel. And looking at this ID, it's a foreign ID to a regular eye. This is probably nothing out of the normal. Okay, let me show you the second form that we got. And I'm gonna see if I can put these side by side for you guys to see. And if you're on your phone, this may be a little hard to see, but I want you to look at these. Can anybody tell me the first thing that stands out about these two IDs where you can go, okay, that's a red flag? I don't have my chat up, so if anybody's chatting, let me.
Yeah, throw it in the chat. What do you guys think? Can you see anything? Picture is exactly the same
That's it. Yeah,
as the
that's absolutely
background.
it, Darlene. Is the pictures are exactly the same when you look at these. Oops, sorry. So looking at the pictures, you can tell the pictures are exactly the same. There's no way he got his driver's license in 2016, but his passport in 2015, and he wore the exact same thing. His mouth was the exact same. He did not age a bit. So that's our first red flag. Also looking at the ID, you can kind of see that it is copy and pasted. You can see where it's been cropped. So there's a few things. The signatures, exactly the same. I don't know about you guys, but my signature looks different every time I sign it. And I sign it quite frequently. So that's another standpoint. Another thing we're looking at is the age. This gentleman was born in 1956.
Hmm.
Maybe he may look good for his age, I guess. But that's also another red flag. We also have on our side, we have a book that will show us what these identifications are actually supposed to look like. So when we get a Florida ID, it's pretty easy. I'll pull out my ID and I'll compare it and I'll see different things. The biggest thing is looking, everybody knows your last name is that first letter on your ID. They're not catching on to that apparently, and that will be different, and you'll automatically go, okay, this is fraud. What are you doing? But we can't just stop here. They're giving us their IDs. They think that this is going to fly. So we're going to play their games and we're going to continue what we need to do. We still don't open the file. At this point, if we have looked at the IDs and we've gone, okay, this is fraud, we're going to let them know we need to do a video call. We usually do those. We prefer to do those on Zoom because we can record it and save it in our file. We also report everything back to our compliance department, so I'll go over that as well. But Zoom is great because we can record everything. If we have a vacant land where we get IDs, the sellers look great or the IDs look great, they've been verified, listing agent knows the sellers, we'll be a little bit more lenient and we'll say, hey, can you just FaceTime us? And we will screen record there too. We'll still have it recorded. But we're not like, you have to do this through Zoom. So I'm going to pull up not the same one, but I'm going to pull up a Zoom video that we did on a vacant land. That's really, really great that we caught it on. So India and Victoria handled this.
Good morning.
And you don't really need to hear it, so I'll turn that off. But the left side is obviously the fraudster. So there's a couple of things to look at in this video, which we identified at the minute he put his camera on. One is the background, and then two, you can see the hologram around his face. So he took the seller's ID and he put it on his face using AI, and he tried to get away with it. The good thing about, and we've had a couple of ones that look exactly like this, except obviously the face changes because they're trying to impersonate that seller. If you tell them to stand up and turn around, they can't. So that's what we ask them to do. If we notice this immediately, we're going to say, well, first, when he's talking, his lips don't move. So you can see he's trying to talk here and nothing is moving. So we noticed that as well. And you can see Victoria, she's the one kind of taking the rein on this. When we do these calls or in person, we always do it as a team because we need to have that. Not I don't want to say support because Victoria can handle it. It's more for witness, right? So India's in the background. You just can't see her. I'm also in the background, and we're noting things that we note are fraud, and we're letting Victoria know different things to ask. So she's got her prompted questions that she's asking him, which could be, can you verify the address on the tax record that your tax bills go to? Well, this gentleman has done his research. He knows that. We'll ask him, when did you acquire the property? Deeds public record. This gentleman has done his investigating. He knows that. So then we'll start asking her, trickier questions. What's your social security number? Usually they get a little hesitant, or you'll see them, fumbling with papers and trying to locate this information. There has been times where we've got it. We've had one where they give us the totally wrong social security number, because they're probably giving us theirs or just something random. But that's when we're identifying. So in the background of this call, India and I were talking, and we told Victoria, his lips aren't moving. You can see the hologram. We need to get him to turn around. So what was prompted in this call was for him to stand up and turn around, so that way we could see his full body. So we told him to stand up and turn around. He couldn't do that. He was having technical issues and had to disconnect the call. No problem, hop back on when you can. So we get back on, and the hologram even looked better than it did before, and he could move a little bit and his mouth could move a little bit more, but he still couldn't kind of stand up and turn around. The biggest thing about these fraudsters is if we never say, okay, you're fraud. That's it, we're done. We never tell them that. We don't want them to know we know. It's like that episode of Friends. They know that we know you know, right? And so we never tell them that. We play into it. We think, let them know that they're trying to get away with it. And they're not. So at that point, we're like, we just continue the conversation. All right, well, I'm your processor. Do you have any other questions for us before we continue closing? Every single time. Can anybody guess what that question is that these fraudsters are asking us? Absolutely, Lauren. How do I get paid? Yep. How fast can we close? Yep. 100% every single time. So when are we closing? When will I get my money? We'll be in touch with you. We'll contact your agent as soon as we can. And that's where the call ends. At that point, we call all the agents. We let them know, listen, we identified fraud. They're usually thankful and happy and okay, thank you so much. The seller, never hear from them again, because at that point they know we've caught on to them. So what we do also is called a skip trace search. The skip trace search is super, super important. And you're probably wondering, what is a skip trace search? So a skip trace on a property is the process of locating hard to find or missing information about a property owner when normal searches can't do this. So if you didn't know, which I'm sure that you guys have these hats you wear too, sometimes we wear hats in title where we're FBI agents, and we have to track down owners and prior owners for corrective deeds and somebody who we find out later is dead. We have to wear these investigation hats, right? Well, that's how we have to do this on a vacant land too. We want to track down these people. We want to find the good in such a horrible situation and let this person know. And a lot of times on an agent standpoint, they're getting this information or these deals from referrals. I have noticed that probably 3 out of 5 I have caught, the agent says, I got this as a referral. So be diligent. Do your diligence on this, which is great that Vacant has the IDs coming through now, because you can send them to us and we can get all this done before you even waste your time and list it. So back to skip trace. So when we do a skip trace, what we typically have to provide to it's our examiner's department. And that's why they call me Nancy Drew. That's a good one, Jennifer. We should start using that. And we have to provide the full name, um, the most recent address, which we use the mailing address on the tax bill, and then the reason. So we tell them this is a vacant land, this is the address on the bill, and this is their full name, and it will pull up a full. I don't have any that are redacted to show you guys, but it comes in a chart and it has the person's name. It will tell us if they're still alive or deceased. It will have the last four of their social security number, their age, um, all of their addresses that they have reported to within the United States. Because a lot of times, like I said, these are out of state people. So if that tax deed is saying North Carolina, but then this seller says, I'm in Washington, that's another red flag. Usually it's more out of the country. They tell us that they're in um, Singapore or, something crazy. So it'll tell us all of that, but it also gives us phone numbers. And next to the addresses and the phone numbers, they give us a green check mark that says it's been verified within the last certain couple of months. So we pick up the phone and we call. And we call, sorry, my phone is ringing. We call these real owners and we try and get a hold of them. And we have been successful with this, which feels great to be able to tell them. But the worry over the phone, and it's okay, this is what's happening. We have caught it. We are not going to close, but I wanted to give you a heads up that somebody is impersonating you and they are trying to sell the vacant land. So if you have anybody who is still currently in Florida, I recommend having them drive by, make sure there's no for sale signs or anything like that on the property. And if there is, calling that agent, letting them know you're not selling, and things like that. Uh, so it's really cool. So skip traces they pull from public records, utility records, change of address databases, social and business records. So it's very accurate information, and it's been very helpful. We do have other things that we use to be able to find these people, but this has been the most successful. Regardless if it's vacant land or if it's fraud or not, a skip trace is required in our process. So we've done the two IDs, a skip trace, and we've done a video call. So those are our first three steps into the vacant land procedures. Let's see. I just wanted to go through the chat. It is way easier now. Well, I don't know how detailed it is, Lauren, because we just send an email to our department to request it and they come back, but they get it back really quickly. So I think it is a lot easier now. What do identifications do we ask for? Ask for front and back. We don't need front and back. We have a list that we send out. I can also push that out to you guys. The first one obviously is a valid driver's license. Both identifications need to be valid. We've had sellers give us a utility bill that one matches the address and their name. The one that I had told you about that he also impersonated the seller with his social, he gave us the credit card statement, and when we contacted the real seller, he did not have a credit card under that. So that's how we knew at that point it was much more deeper than just a vacant land fraud. This gentleman was unfortunately hitting identity fraud. There was a lot more going on. So just different things where we can verify their name, their social, and their address. We could do a voter's registration. A concealed is a good one. If you don't know, ask us, but we do have a list of ones that we send out as recommendations to pull through. A passport is always a good one. So I'm going to kind of go over, we call a vacant land checklist. So I have that in front of me. I'm not going to share it with you guys because we do want to make sure this is still secure and we don't want these fraudsters to get away with it. So I'm just going to kind of go over it verbally. I may miss a couple of things, but that is purpose because like I said, we want to make sure that it's still secure and that it's not out there for the world to be able to know what we're doing. So is the seller local, right? That's going to be our first question. Are they here? If they are, great. We're not going to do a video call. Come in our office. Let's sit down at a conference table. Let's meet you face to face. Let's get everything ironed out at that time. 90% of the time, if they're coming into the office, actually probably like 99% of the time, they're not fraud because they would not come into this office. Now, I will tell you, we have had, and it was a couple of years ago, a vacant land close, and it was not with Paramount Title, but it went all the way through, and the seller did show up to closing. He did have a bank account in the name of that real seller. So they are getting good. We have not seen that, India and myself, at our office, which thankfully, because that is scary. So is the seller local? We already talked about, or where are they? Are they at the address that's on that tax bill? So is the tax bill going to, Wisconsin? But they're telling us now that they reside in Michigan. What's going on? Why isn't that updated? Let's see. We're also going to call the listing agent. And if you've been a listing agent on a vacant land, you know this call is coming. Victoria will call you and we're going to ask you questions. How do you know the seller? Is he a past client? Is he or she a family of a past client? Was it a referral? So those are things that, we're going to ask. We've had some come back where it's like, no, this was a referral and he'll only communicate through text message. Hmm, that's a red flag. Let's call him. Doesn't answer. Okay. So different things like that. You'll guys kind of see like, okay, I need to be careful with this. I know texting is the biggest way of communication now. But have them pick up the phone and call you or do a FaceTime call. Hey, I'm at the property. There's a lot of land around me. Can you call me real quick so we can go, make sure I'm at the right property here and list the right one? Different things like that. Now we've done a video call and the gentleman was moving and it was a real person and that was another scary one. It wasn't AI and that one was a little crazy one. Does FERP apply? So is this person a US citizen? If they're fraud, they're going to tell you they're US citizens and they'll give you a social security number. But if they're not, and it is a legit person, that's just going to be a little bit more that we are going to do on our end to make sure that this foreign person is actually our seller. We did the video call, we did the skip trace. We also have manager review. So once Victoria completes her checklist, she has this printed for her file and she's checking off everything here. Once that is done, she's bringing it to her closer. So myself or India, and we're reviewing everything. Once we have reviewed the file and everything that she's checked off, we're sending it to our regional manager. Most of you know, Misty Poole. She is also reviewing it. So what we do is we have an email template with all of these things broken out and we let her know what the answers were. Yes, the seller is local. Yes, they reside at the same address. Yes, we have 2 forms of ID. Yes, we did a video call. The listing agent knows it because it was a past client, laying it all out. There's a few more on there that I'm just not going to release out, but there are, more bullet points. And then Misty reviews it, and we cannot disperse on our file. We cannot release this seller money unless I have an email saved in my file from a regional manager that says it was approved. So our accounting team is also alerted at this point. They know that they cannot send money out to anybody until it has gone through 3 people and it has been approved. So it has stopped. At the bottom of this, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says if any answers are above are no, stop. Get management involved immediately. So we so let's go over what happens if we identify fraud. As I said, first we're informing all the agents. We ask the buyer's agent if they would like to inform their clients or if they'd like us to make that call. Mostly every time they just like to make that call, which is okay. We don't open the contract, like I said, so we don't have a file to cancel. It's just null and void at that point. And then we have in our internal department, we have a red flags email. And that goes directly to our compliance department, Amy Gregory, who is our president and CEO. It goes to both of our regional managers, our attorneys on staff, and we also have to provide the video call, both IDs, and everything that we went through to identify that it was fraud. At that point, what happens on a title standpoint, which this should be streamlined between all title companies, is there is what's called an underwriter bulletin. And that shows us fraud that's taking place. And I will tell you a lot of the fraud does come, I will see most of it probably in Lee County and Miami-Dade County. But there is tons that are happening around us in Pinellas and Hillsborough too. And we get that actually every day. There's fraud happening every day, and we get an updated one every single day. So if I were to report John Doe of Zero Lake Drive is my vacant land, our compliance department is going to put that onto the underwriter bulletin. She's going to push that out to every underwriter in the state of Florida. And that way, every title company who is checking their underwriter bulletins will be notified if they get another contract from John Doe on Zero Lake Drive, they need to take an extra high alert and do due diligence. And if that title company is not, the underwriter is. So when they do that title commitment, they're identified. John Doe was flagged. We need to be careful with this. What are you doing to protect us? Because we're insuring this property. Um, I want to go over one scenario that I had, and kudos. I don't know if she's on the call, but Angie Richardson, she had a buyer who was buying vacant land, and we weren't handling it, and it was very tons of red flags just from the beginning, and not even just with the seller, with the title company. So we helped her out, making sure everything was verified and getting it through, and it wound up being fraud. The seller was fraud. But let me tell you what Angie did to go the extra mile. She contacted the real seller. Still to this day, I'm pretty sure Angie thinks that this title company was in on it too. But um, she contacted the real seller and she found him, and he lives right here in Apollo Beach. And she said, listen, I have a buyer who wants to buy a property, your property. And this is what happened. It was fraud, but I found you, and this is the offer. And the seller said, you know what? I actually was thinking about selling. I'll do it. And she got that listing. And we wound up handling it from there. The gentleman was so sweet, and he came into the office. He provided his owner's policy and his deeds, and he had everything. He had prior surveys, and he was great. But we verified him, and when we got the commitment back, the first thing is my underwriter directly contacted me and said, Megan, this gentleman popped up on the underwriter bulletin. What did you do to confirm this? And I said, yes, I'm aware. I know it was fraud, but this is what we've done. And we were able to close it. And it was just such a turnaround story, especially for on an agent standpoint. Like, she really went the extra mile to get the deal, but to also help her clients because they really wanted this land. And it was fraud. And then the guy was like, I'm trying to leave anyway. Let's just sell it. Um, so that was a really good happy story when it comes to vacant land. But it is on the rise. It's real and it's scary. So that is really it, which is good because we have like 3 minutes left. So do you guys have any questions for me on vacant land? And I will send out, I always send out my emails after our trainings. I'll send one out. I'll also include some type of 2 forms of identification that you guys can ask for. Just standard ones that we ask for. And if those aren't available, we always have more, but we give about 5 or 6 that they can send us to start with. What do you guys think? Are you seeing this out there? Have you ever found fraud on the buyer side? We have. So I had a cash transaction. Oh man, who was the agent? Gosh, I can't remember. It was a Bacon's agent on both sides. And the buyer never did deposit an escrow deposit. And they verbally talked to the seller, agents and sellers, and they said, that's okay. You signed a contract, but it's not titled into, monitor that deposit and track anybody down. So if they agreed verbally, then they know we have the proof that they know, right? And come closing, the buyer wanted to get a cashier's check. No, sir, you have to do a wire transfer. It's immediate. Then it was just the runaround after the runaround. We wound up identifying that it was fraud. The buyer was fraud, and he was trying to give us a check that was not going to go through. And the property was like $988,000. Um, what was really crazy about it is the sellers were so upset with us because of the whole deposit, and they lost everything because it got dragged out so long. But you almost didn't get paid, at the end of the day. If we didn't have his money and it bounced, you would have not gotten this money, but you would have lost your land. So yeah, it does happen on the buyer side. It's just a little bit more rare. You mentioned a couple of weeks ago for a site vacant landowners can register to get notified for potential scam concerning their property. What site is that? So that is actually through your county. That is through the county's property appraiser. I know Hillsborough County, you can go online and register. And what happens is anytime a deed is recorded, it notifies you. So that way, if there is fraud happening, it's going to notify you with the information that they have on hand. So check with that the county and the property appraiser and see. I know it's not streamlined through all Florida counties yet, but I know Hillsborough County is on board. What do you do when you have a buyer making an offer on land? What to ask listing realtor before writing an offer? The IDs. That's the biggest thing. If you before you even list it, I recommend getting 2 forms of ID and sending it to your title rep. So if Indy and I and your closer are on this deal, send it to us. We will do all of our vacant land stuff and work as hard as we can on it before you even put it under listing, before you even get to the point of having an offer to confirm it's valid. We don't want you guys to waste your time on it either. Let us do the hard work on it. Let us do the heavy lifting to make sure that it's legit before you put a sign out there, you get offers, people are disappointed. Don't worry about that. Let us handle it. Let us make sure it's valid before anything happens. All right. Does anybody have any other questions?
Well, I think that is some fantastic, fantastic information. I'd love to actually how you go through and kind of look at some of that stuff. That's really, really cool. Can you send me the list of those like 5 things that they're kind of that you're looking for why vacant land is kind of
Yeah.
like that, if that makes sense? I'd love to send that out later on today.
Yeah,
Just to
absolutely.
say this is kind of like the whys behind it. And hopefully that can give some talking points also
And
as it leads up to say safe.
I'll
Yeah.
send that video out too that we looked at that Victoria and India did so you guys can see that, if you want to look at it on your own time, but um I won't send the IDs, but I'll send that video out so you can see like
Yeah.
it's crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a wonderful week. And if you have any follow-up questions, let me know. And if you have any vacant lands that you're going to be listing or you have listed, contact me. Please, let's get the seller verified before you get an offer and go through all the hard work.
Oh yeah, this is just you're such a great resource for anything, yeah, when it comes to real estate, but obviously on the vacant land in today's subject, use them. It's better to be safe than sorry if it takes a little longer to get something listed because we're going through this process.
Mhm.
It's all about protecting the seller and protecting you, right? That's what it's all about. So let's just do our due diligence, and if you have questions or you don't know, reach out to Megan and the team and let them kind of help through some of that stuff so we can make sure we're making the right decisions and doing the right thing. So
Absolutely. Thank you,
fantastic. Well,
Jimmy.
thank you again. Happy Thursday, everybody. Have fun
Woo!
today.
You guys have a great
All right.
week. See you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.